Hey guys, thank you for clicking onto this video. Please subscribe, and press that like button. Man, I like Icon DANGOTE, man. He's the richest black man in the world. I like what this man says. I think there's a lot of wisdom in what he says. But he also, one thing I like about him, he just doesn't say. You can see that he even does it. This guy now has the biggest oil refinery, one single line oil refinery in the world. And this is and that in itself is a statement of where Africa should be. We should be having the best, the biggest of anything. Because we are the richest continent on the planet. The problem is we are not run by people with brains. That's it. That's the only thing that has let us down. In this video, watch it. Aiko Dangote lays out a plan on how to transform Africa into paradise in 5 years. And it's not hard. It says 5 years. That's what it takes. China did it in 15 years. We can do it in 5 years. The first thing he mentions is about we take advantage of our resources. That's one thing we don't do. Because it's much easier to follow the status quo. And the status quo, all of you guys know this, especially if you're from Africa, the status quo was put there during colonial days. And what has happened, and I've said this so many times, I'm glad he just talked about it. And what has happened is it's much easier for you to come in and just follow what's already there. Like Zambia used to be one of the biggest copper producers in the world. I think it was like the second biggest copper producer in the world at some point. But what used to happen is when they're trying to sell this at their London Stock Exchange, sometimes no one would even buy their copper. And as a result, they would sell it at very cheap prices just to get some money to send back so the country can have some money coming in. This is back in the day. It doesn't happen like that. But even that was wrong. It's because you're not thinking outside the box. You never took the time to understand how the global economy works. So therefore people take advantage of you. But today, I hope they've sort of learned. Most of these guys haven't learned. They haven't actually tried to even learn. Because the politics that has happened in Africa, there are very few countries that have set up things that they want to achieve, whether you are in opposition or you are the current government. What there should be at least 4 pillars of every economy of every country in the world, that these are the things we want to achieve, and it doesn't matter who's in power. You say, okay, we need agriculture, we need to take care and advantage of our natural resources. And this is the plan. This is how we are going to do it. And any government and every government that comes in, they follow that or they improve on it. Where we don't go backwards. These days, we still take advantage of us when it comes to natural resources. Someone would come and buy a mining company for $1 million, and within 18 months, they've made $500 billion and they've paid zero taxes. They've made $500 million from a $10, $20 million mine that they bought, and they've paid no taxes. And the government is happy with that. And they've employed people. They've probably employed 1,000 people, but they're paying them peanuts. Something like maybe $500 a month. And we think that's okay. But this only happens because the people who are leaders, they're brainless. Let me give an example of Malawi, and they can give a lot of examples. They have a leader who used to be a pastor. Nicola Machiavelli, and a philosopher who lived in Italy about 500 years ago, said something about this. He said there's no way a religious person can be a leader, because sometimes as a leader, you need to kill people to defend your country. You can't be doing some of the harshest stuff as a religious person, because that goes against religion, to be honest. And these are the people you have as leaders. And also on top of that, most people in Africa who become preachers, they do it because it makes money. They're not there for good intentions. They're there because it makes money. That's why when these people get voted into government, nothing changes because they don't even know what to do. They haven't taken the time to study. I'm going to add a little bit to what Dangote said. So it mentions agriculture. It mentions taking advantage of our natural resources, but also it mentions about corruption. And it's true. The focus on corruption is actually wrong. In Africa, everyone wants to fight corruption. Corruption is everywhere, guys. And I agree with what he said. Corruption is everywhere. But we can minimize it. And some of the corruption in Africa is just because people are, let me say this. In some countries, there's government workers who have not been paid. They have not been paid for 5 months. Let's say you're a police officer and you haven't been paid for 5 months. And then I come along, I got some illegal stuff I'm doing, and then I say, I'll give you $1,000. Your kids probably haven't had 3 meals in a day. They've had 1 meal. What's stopping you from taking $1,000? You got nothing to lose because you already haven't been paid. How have they managed to minimize corruption in Singapore? By paying the workers, especially government workers, a lot of money. A lot of money. You know, people in Singapore get more money than people in the UK, which is the former, which Singapore is a former colony of England. But today, people in Singapore get paid more money on average than the people in the UK. And that's how they've managed to minimize. It's not like they've completely eradicated corruption. It's still there, but they've minimized it. Because now, you need a higher incentive for you to be corrupt. You know, there's no way I'm making let's say I'm making $180,000, and then you come out and start giving me $1,000, and I get paid every month. You know, $180,000, I get paid every month. There's no way you're gonna come here with $1,000 trying to bribe me. You know, for you to bribe me, you probably need to give me millions of dollars. But then when you do that, you're not making any money. So there's no point for you to even bribe me. You just end up paying the correct amount you're supposed to pay for your taxes or whatever that the issue is. You know, and that's how you fight corruption. You try to make not being corrupt cool. You increase how much people pay, and you also promote people that actually speaks out against corruption. You know, if someone doesn't go ahead and participate in some corruption, make those people heroes and promote them. That's how you minimize corruption. You can't eradicate corruption. But something I also want to add to what Dangote said. When you talk, let me just something you mentioned about natural resources. I just saw something recently. Burkina Faso, under Captain Ibrahim Traore, he's proven this. They just made $18 billion from selling gold. Remember, they had to kick out mining companies, British mining companies that were ripping the government off. They had to bring in their own processing plant for gold. And guess what? $18 billion they've just made. $18 billion. That's a $20 billion economy. And in one go, they just made $18 billion. And guess what? Now they got enough money to invest in the education of their people. They got enough money to invest in hospitals. They got enough money to build roads. And they got enough money to educate their people. This is one of the biggest problems we have on the continent. It's the education. Even the educated people haven't received the proper education. They've been miseducated. So they've become followers of something that doesn't work. There's different ways. This is what I would do if I was leader. I'll bring all the so-called smart people in the country and I'll lock them up in a hotel or something. And I say, you guys ain't coming out there until you give me a frame of how we are going to move our people out of poverty. And I'll lock them up in different groups. Economists, lock them up. Health workers, lock them up. I say, I want you to produce, because this is one thing I've realized. There's a different kinds of, there's Austrian economy, there's the Chicago economy. But all these people have created their economies based on their people. In Africa, we just copy. That's why things don't work. What we need to do is come up with an economic frame that suits us. You know, And that's not easy to do. That's why they can't do it. It's much easier to go and follow a European economic plan. That only works for them. And that's why they come to Africa, they do so well. Because you're following what they already know. But if we created something, I had someone say, I think it was the CEO of Apple. I think it was Steve Jobs. Not Steve Jobs. Tim Cook said about how it was very hard. Tim Cook and the CEO of Uber, I think he said this. He said it was very hard. It's very hard to do business in China. Not because of corruption, no. Because the rules, how things work in America is not how things work in China. That's why in the end, Uber could not function in China. They just, because the competition was real. So what they did was just buy shares in a Chinese rideshare company called Didi or something like that. But in Africa, if they come, we lay everything, we leave everything to them. And that's what we can do. We can develop. People come to Africa like Lyft. They see how things are done in Africa, and then they go and reproduce them in their own country. When the government starts to invest in the people, in the education of their people, like real education, we got geniuses in Africa, man. You're going to see us start making all kinds of stuff. And like he said, if we focus on the basics, the low-hanging fruits, such as agriculture, such as mining, things that we already have in abundance. We got plenty of land. 60-something% of Arab land is in Africa. Arab land, that's land that's suitable for farming. I'll give you an example. Just Uganda has more land available for farming than China. So if we can take advantage of that and become the food basket of the world, you know how much money that would generate? And then technology starts coming in, because now the money that we are making from our natural resources, like Burkina Faso has just done $18 billion. From our agriculture, no one is going hungry. People are eating well. This means their brains are developing, and then they're getting the education that we need to get. 5 years, we are on fire. By the end of 15 years, Africa is paradise. It's not hard, guys. It's not hard. But there's the other thing as well. We keep complaining about people, like outside people starting to influence in politics and this. That's because we let them do that. We let them. If we put up serious things in terms of defense, in terms of intelligence, all these things ain't gonna work. The problem is we haven't allowed ourselves to set up boundaries of how we are going to operate as countries and as a continent. Yeah, we haven't done that yet. People are so focused on the wrong stuff. The other thing for me, which I think is the biggest problem, is actually religion. Religion holds us back big time. Because when you're a religious person, you start hoping. And also, it kind of holds you back in how much you can think. Because everything has to be about God. Who's moving the clouds? Jesus is. Instead of finding out why the clouds are moving and why do we even have clouds in the first place. Our friends who are doing that, they are creating rains, artificial rain. But it rains is real water. But they'll figure out why it rains. And then they try to take that information, use it to their advantage, and produce rain. That's how they're fighting droughts in certain countries. We're not doing that. Because a lot of people believe Jesus is moving the clouds. And this is what I'm saying. These are some of the things we need to work on. I'm not saying don't be religious. You can be religious however you want, but let's also have a thinking brain. If something doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Let us allow ourselves to think. We have the richest continent on the planet. It doesn't make sense that the richest continent is housing the poorest people in the world. It doesn't make sense. I hope we can all have a Dangote spirit, man. I give up to Dangote, man. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. Please subscribe. See ya.